Hello, good evening. You are welcome to another edition of Import-Export Platform Facebook Live, brought to you by 3 Pest Trade Academy. My name is Dele Ayemibo, and we'll continue our discussion on export documentation. And today we are looking at part 3. And we are looking at the people. We've looked at the preamble. We've looked at the preparation. We've looked at the paperwork. We are looking at the people this evening. The people involved. The people involved in export documentation. There are different key stakeholders involved in export business in Nigeria, and they issue different documents needed in the course of exportation in Nigeria. This includes the importer and the exporter. The importer and the exporter are the ones that sign the agreement. The importer applied for letter of credit to be issued in favor of the exporter, but the bank issued that letter of credit. The exporter process is pre-export documentation with his bank. The importer the exporter prepare the process the pre and post export documentation. But what we'll be looking at now is who are those that issue those documents. The banks is one that issue the trade instrument, like guarantees, like standby, like letter of credit. Bolu Ariyo, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. Like guarantee, like standby, like letter of credit. Then we have the Central Bank of Nigeria. The Central Bank of Nigeria is the one that owns the form. Is the one that owns the form that is being used. The NXP form is the form of Central Bank of Nigeria. That's the Nigerian Export Proceed form. And the Nigerian bank is the one that will issue the letter of credit and also receive the letter of credit. In the import, they issue it. In the export, they are the one that receive it on behalf of the exporter. Nigerian Export Promotion Council issues the export certificate, also called export license. The carrier, which is the shipping line or airline, issue the airway bill or bill of lading. Bill of lading in the case of shipping line, airway bill in the case of airline, roadway bill in the case of haulage firm, and railway bill in the case of railway company. The insurance company issued the insurance certificate. NASIMA issued the certificate of origin, and NASIMA is National Association of Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture. Naimeka Anthony, thank you very much for joining. Good evening. The Nigerian Customs Service cleared the good for export and issue documents like NSP endorsed by custom, document like SGD, both of which are post-export documentation, also called exchange control document. The Nigerian Agricultural Quarantine Service issues health certificate and phytosanitary certificate in the case of animal or plant exports respectively. NAFDAC issued the NAFDAC export certificate. Federal Produce Inspection Service issued the fumigation certificate. SON, Standard Organization of Nigeria, issued the MANCAP certificate, Mandatory Conformity Assessment Program. Mandatory Conformity Assessment Program. Depending on the nature of the item you are exporting, that will determine which of these bodies you will have to work with or deal with on your transaction. The process of export documentation is as follows. Number 1, export planning. And our interest here is the step-by-step export process, but we are interested in the document involved each step of the way. Export planning. At the level of export planning, the exporter is deciding what to export, signing the necessary papers and agreement, and taking decision on pricing, taking decision on product, taking decision on paperwork, taking decision on payment, taking some very important decision at the commencement of the transaction. At the export planning level, the exporter is asking, what am I exporting? Who is buying it? At what rate is he buying it? At what profit am I selling it? What is the capital required? And for how long can I do this business? Then the contract sourcing and signing. The buyer and the seller sign an agreement. After the buyer and seller have agreed on how the transaction is going to go, they sign an agreement. We've talked about this agreement in the past. It's a very important area of the business. What I would strongly recommend is anybody going into export, is very important you consider signing an agreement. For one strange reason, people don't want to sign an agreement. I don't know why. But if you don't sign an agreement, you are basically leaving your transaction to chance. You are leaving your transaction to chance if you do not sign an agreement. If you do not sign an agreement. Because at the end of the day, if anything happens along the line, the implication of that is that you might fall a victim. You might fall a victim. You might fall a victim if you do not sign an agreement. If you do not sign an agreement, you might fall a victim. And it's very unfortunate that many have found themselves falling a victim because they refuse to sign an agreement. These are avoidable issues you have in international trade. Just sign the agreement and then you reduce the chance of issues. So that when issue happens, you have a basis for recourse. And it also allows you to think through on the transaction. Then the exporter seeks for funding from his friends, family, banks, savings. If he's new, he might not be able to get funding from the bank. If you are interested in raising money from the bank, I would recommend you check out my series on A to Z of export business financing. You will get to know all the things you need to know as far as export financing is concerned. So you know what to do to be able to source the fund from the bank. Manufacturing of the product. Because now he has been able to source funding, the next thing is to manufacture the product. Manufacture the product or procure the product depending on the nature. Then transport of the goods. Transport of the goods with a good in transit insurance to a designated location where the inspection will take place, typically in a warehouse or a terminal. Why the good is being transported, especially if it's coming from up country, it is wise to do the warehousing. It is wise to do the warehousing and booking of the container. It is wise to do the warehousing and booking of the container. Warehousing and booking of the container. So between the time when the good leave where it's coming from till when it gets to the location which you warehouse and booking of the container, you have to process your pre-export documentation. So what are the pre-export documentation at this stage? The NXP, which you pick up from the bank, the pro forma invoice, the Nigerian Export Promotion Certificate of Registration, the Certificate of Incorporation of Limited Liability Company, the receipt for payment of next fee. All these form part of the pre-export documentation. The NXP, pro forma invoice, export license, certificate of incorporation, and next fee. These 5 documents forms the pre-export documentation. These 5 documents form the pre-export documentation. The exporter is to collate this document and dispatch them to his bank. Ade Omoli, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. Adedayo Grace, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. Remember, the good is currently on transit to the warehouse if it's coming from outside Lagos. And if it's in Lagos, it's assumed it's already in the warehouse, in your own warehouse in Lagos. And from there, inspection can take place. There are different levels of inspection done on an export project from Nigeria. There's an inspection by the inspection agent inspecting on behalf of the president, the behalf of the federal government. There's an inspection by the customs, statutory inspection by customs. There is inspection by the buyer's agent. And depending on the nature of your transaction, the three I mentioned are very common. But depending on the nature of the transaction, you might have additional inspection by the Nigerian Agricultural Quarantine Service and the Federal Produce Inspection Service. I am of the opinion that the pre-shipment inspection agent of the federal government could just work with all other government agencies so that we have just two people, customs and pre-shipment inspection agent. Pre-shipment agent now is now not just quarantine, it's now not just the cobalt, the Neroli technology or the Kama who currently do it in Nigeria. We have the quarantine joining them in that team. You have the Federal Produce Inspection Service. And if NAFDAC is involved, you have NAFDAC. That any other government agency beside customs should join the federal pre-shipment inspection agent. Because government have designated pre-shipment inspection agent who will naturally inspect goods leaving Nigeria. Statutorily, that's what they are meant to do, statutorily. In Nigeria, there are currently 3. It used to be one company, but they made them 3 some years back. So if you are looking at Northeast, Northwest, North Central, you'll be looking at the like of Kamai ASEA. If you are looking at Southwest, you are looking at Cobalt. If you are looking at South, and Southeast, you are looking at Neroli technology. Neroli technology. These are the pre-shipment inspection agents inspecting on behalf of federal government. Remember, we have another inspection agent called custom. Custom inspects to ensure that the goods being exported are not prohibited. They are not on the export prohibited list. Remember, in one of the previous series, we talked about items prohibited for export in Nigeria. Item like corn, item like scrap metal, item like artifact and antiquities, item like unprocessed rubber, lump and latex, item like unprocessed wood, item like animals classified as endangered species, and all imported items. They are all exempted. They are all prohibited for export in Nigeria. So we have the pre-shipment inspection agent, we have the custom. Then you have the third set of agent, which is the buyer inspection agent. Remember, buyer might not see the good before he pays. And since he was going to pay before seeing the goods, the buyer most likely will want someone to check the good ahead just to be sure of the quality of what he's buying. Just to be sure of the quality of what he's buying. So you might have a pre-shipment inspection agent inspecting the good on behalf of the buyer. It could be a rep of the buyer. It could be a professional inspection agent. There are a number of them. I don't want to advertise anyone here, but there are a number of them. You can check them online. And these agents of private agency are available in Nigeria. I think about 2 of them are available in Nigeria to be able to help you with this inspection. Then the last one are the other government agencies like Federal Produce Inspection Service, like NAFDAC, like SON, like Nigerian Agricultural Quarantine Service, all these other agencies, depending on the nature of your item, that will determine if they are going to do any other inspection. But there are 3 major inspections that will most of the time be done. At least 2 will be done. At least 2 will be done. The custom will be done, and the other one will be done. That's the pre-shipment inspection agent of government. Those 2 will be done. The buyer inspection agent will be at the discretion of the buyer. If both of them agree, if he's comfortable with the seller, he might not send an inspection to do it, inspection agent to do it. And same go for the other inspection required. After this inspection, the good is then stuffed into the container and sealed, and then transferred to the port. So it's going by haulage to the port, and I always recommend, if you are going by haulage in Lagos, do a good in transit insurance. It's just about 0.3, 0.4%. It can save you a lot of headache. Can save you a lot of headache. Even theft in transit, damage in transit, loss in transit. But more importantly is the way some container often fall in Lagos nowadays. All right, because of the bad road. So after the haulage to the port, there will be export clearance by customs and other port agencies like NDLEA as SSS. After that clearance, then there is the post-export documentation. Now, the post-export documentation is divided into 2. We have the shipping document, we have the exchange control document. The shipping documents are bill of lading, invoice, packing list. Those are the shipping documents. Then we have the exchange control document. The exchange control document include SGD, CCI, custom endorsed NSP. SGD is the single good declaration issued by custom. CCI is clean certificate of inspection issued by inspection agent of the government. This document evidence that good has been legally exported. The shipping document evidence that the importer who has that document can clear the goods. Caleb Afua, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. He showed evidence that he can clear the goods, shipping document. But the exchange control document is different. What the exchange control document helps us to do or achieve is that the exchange control document validates that this exporter is a legal exporter. When I process the post-export documentation, in this case and at this time, the most important one will be the shipping document, because the exchange control document can still come afterward, but shipping document is very critical because it needs to be sent out immediately. The exporter sends it to his own bank locally. Exporter bank sends it to the importer's bank. Importer's bank effects payment to the exporter's bank, and the account of the exporter is credited. Account of the exporter is credited. Now, what I've discussed just now is talking about the step-by-step export process and the documentation involved. And the reason why I went through it is to give us an idea of where each of these documents are used. Where each of these documents are used. For example, the NXP and NES, together with the CAC and the NEPC certificate, are all pre-export documentation. The NAFDAC and MANCAP could also be pre-export documentation. But on the other side, the health certificate, phytosanitary, fumigation are post-export documentation. Why? These documents are required by the buyer for clearing of the good after shipment. But there can be a change in paradigm, such that at the end of the day, These documents are processed and even obtained before shipment. These are all issues of efficiency of the agency of government. But the one that the bank is interested in, before shipment, we've mentioned that. Then after shipment, we've mentioned that. Evangelist Joshua, thank you very much for joining. Good evening and welcome. So this step-by-step export process shows where documents are required, the pre-export document and the post-export document. The post-export document, the document delivered to the bank are the bill of lading, the invoice, the packing list. Now, let me show you, okay, let me see if I can show you a bill of lading. A bill of lading. One of the things I plan to do, like I said in the morning, is to see if I can get you to see some of these documents. To see some of the document, because seeing some of the document give you an insight into how they look and probably what it takes to get them. Some are very easy to get, some are very tough to get. That means you must plan. So at the end of the day, you don't give reason or excuse to your customer why you are unable to ship simply because there are some documents that are not available. Remember, in international trade, you are the only one trading with them. You are not the only one trading with them. They have a lot of other people trading with them. And the earlier you get the information across, the better. So it's very important that documents are sent without discrepancy also. Because it's possible you send document and document is full of discrepancy. What's a discrepancy? Discrepancy basically talk about extraneous information or conflicting information on the extraneous information or conflicting information on the shipping document. You know, it's one thing for you to ship, it's another thing for you to present document, it's another thing for you to present compliant document when you are doing a letter of credit transaction. Every exporter wants a letter of credit because it's a secure payment method. But if you are going to do a letter of credit, be also rest assured that you must cross your T's and dot your A's. If you are doing export business and you are for the first time getting a letter of credit, I would strongly recommend you work with your bank to examine the letter of credit for you when you receive it, to be sure that the letter of credit is workable. To be sure the letter of credit is workable, number one. Number two, to be sure that the letter of credit is such that at the end of the day, the documents they've asked you, you can get them. And that you can perform within the period specified. If you are not able to perform within this period specified, as good as the letter of credit is, it could be the source of ruin of that transaction. If you are not able to secure, if you are not able to ship on time or secure the document the transaction required, that might be the ruin. That document that is supposed to secure the transaction can be the source of misery of that transaction. Because in letter of credit, you must cross your T's and dot your I's. In letter of credit transaction, you must cross your T's and dot your I's. Unfortunately, many exporters only look at letter of credit as an instrument. They forget that document is critical to the success of the transaction requiring the letter of credit. Because letter of credit basically ensures that on the basis of documentation, letter of credit ensures that on the basis of documentation, a bank can take a decision. So if they tell you to ship in 30 days, and you know you can't ship in 30 days, please don't get desperate. There's still desperation about Nigerians that want to export. I don't know why we're so desperate to do this business. If you want to do a transaction, especially when you are new, you want to be sure you know what you are doing. Ask questions, make inquiry, do due diligence. The guy just know, oh, I have a letter of credit. There is a sure payment. He goes to town to ship. He accepts that LC. And when you accept the LC, you are basically saying you are going to abide by the terms. You know, sometimes some exporters, when they want to export, they give impression to the buyer that the good is ready, especially those doing commodities. They will go and take pictures in one warehouse like that and give an impression that good is ready. Whereas the good is not ready at all. The good is not ready at all. But they give impression that good is ready. But the good is not ready. They will have to start sourcing for the goods. They will have to start sourcing for the goods after they have received the letter of credit. In the eye of the mind of the buyer, if the good is in the warehouse, it shouldn't take you up to 30 days to be able to ship. But for the exporter, he's about to just start sourcing for fund, and he has 30 days. In 30 days, you want to source for fund, you want to go to the field and buy, quality confirm, good transported to Lagos. If you are in Lagos, you can see how horrible our road is, how much that truck will stay within Lagos to be able to get to the port. So that transaction is dead on arrival. The chance, unless that good is already in Lagos and the person is picking it up in Lagos, most likely he might not be able to perform on that transaction. Most likely. And that has been the ruin of a lot of trade transactions by new exporters in Nigeria. So ensure that your documents are complete, your documents are free of errors, are free of discrepancies, so that you will not ship and send document for payment and the buyer the buyer's bank decline payment because there are errors and discrepancies on the document. Get your bank to examine it. You also try to learn so that over time you can begin to do it yourself, but get your bank to examine that document before they present it to help you check that the documents are very much compliant with the terms stipulated in the credit. Thank you very much for listening again today. My name remains Dele Ayimibo, and this is Import-Export Platform Facebook Live, brought to you by 3 Best Trade Academy. I'll be on again tomorrow morning. Most likely I'll be on early tomorrow around 7 a.m. or around 7:30, 7 a.m., 7:30, because of something else I have to do by 8. So I might not be able to do early. If I'm not able to make it by 7, maybe we'll do it by 9. Thank you very much for listening, and have a very good evening. Bye for now.